Have you ever just stopped and thought about where the energy for, well, everything comes from? I mean, the food you eat, the very air you breathe, it all traces back to one single, incredible process. It's called photosynthesis, and believe me, it is the engine that powers our entire world. Let's dive in and see how it works.
That's a pretty powerful idea, isn't it? The thought that almost all life on this planet is solar-powered, just, indirectly. This process is the silent, constant engine running in the background, turning the raw energy of a star 93 million miles away into the actual stuff of life. So the big question is, how on earth does that incredible transformation happen?
All right, let's start right at the beginning. Before we get into all the complex machinery, we need to understand the fundamental goal of this whole thing, turning pure, simple sunlight into the fuel that powers pretty much every living cell.
At its very core, photosynthesis is all about transformation. You could almost call plants nature's original alchemists. I mean, think about it. They take the most basic, abundant stuff around them, sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide right out of the air, and they miraculously turn it into two things that are absolutely essential for our survival: energy, in the form of sugar, and of course the oxygen we breathe.
The easiest way to think about it is like a simple recipe. The inputs, or the ingredients, are sunlight for energy, carbon dioxide from the air, and water that comes up from the soil. And the outputs, well, that's the good stuff. Glucose, which is the plant's food, and that life-giving oxygen that it releases back into the atmosphere for all of us.
So, to really see where the magic happens, we need to zoom in, and I mean way in. We're going to go from looking at the whole forest down to a single leaf, and then deep inside that leaf to the tiny microscopic factories where this all goes down.
You see, a leaf is so much more than just a simple green thing hanging off a branch. It's an incredibly sophisticated, multi-layered solar panel and a factory, all rolled into one. It is perfectly designed for maximum efficiency, making it ground zero for basically all the energy that enters our entire ecosystem.
So let's take a quick tour of this amazing factory, shall we? The actual machines on the assembly line are these little things called chloroplasts. They're painted with a special green pigment called chlorophyll, and that's what physically catches the sunlight. The factory's loading docks are called stomata. These are tiny pores where raw materials like CO2 come in and waste products like oxygen go out. And those veins running through it all? That's the factory's plumbing and conveyor belt system, bringing in water and shipping out the finished sugar to the rest of the plant.
You ever wonder why plants are green? Well, this is it. Chlorophyll is super greedy for the blue and red wavelengths of light. That's the energy it craves. But it has absolutely no use for green light, so it just bounces it right off, straight into our eyes. So the color we see is literally the light that the plant rejected. Kind of funny when you think about it.
Okay, so we know the ingredients and we know where it happens. Now, how does this factory actually run? Well, the whole operation is broken down into two main stages, kind of like two different shifts at the factory.
First up, you have what are called the light-dependent reactions. Think of this as the power generation phase. It's all about capturing that solar energy and storing it in these temporary portable battery packs. Then comes the second shift, the light-independent reactions, which takes the power from those batteries to actually build the sugar molecules.
Let's focus on that first stage for a second, the power generation shift. Inside the chloroplast, its one and only job is to convert raw light energy into usable chemical energy. It does this by creating two special molecules called ATP and NADPH. Now, the best way to think of these is as tiny, rechargeable batteries, now fully charged and ready to power the next stage of the process.
So how exactly are these molecular batteries charged up? It happens in a super fast three-step chain reaction. First, sunlight hits a water molecule and literally splits it apart. Boom. This is the exact moment our oxygen is created. Second, the energy released from that split is used to charge up the first battery, ATP. And finally, in a parallel step, the second battery, NADPH, also gets charged. With the batteries full, the light's job is officially done.
Okay, let's move on to the second stage, which is often called the Calvin cycle. Now, the term light-independent can be a little misleading. It doesn't mean it happens in the dark. It just means it doesn't need light directly. Instead, it runs entirely on the ATP and NADPH batteries that were just charged up in stage 1. This is the food assembly line. This cycle is just a masterpiece of chemical efficiency. First, it grabs a CO2 molecule right out of the air. That step is called carbon fixation. Then, it uses the energy from our ATP and NADPH batteries to transform that carbon into a simple sugar.
And finally, some of those molecules are used to reset the cycle so it can grab another CO2 molecule and do it all over again. The end product of all this is glucose. Yep, plant food.
Of course, this natural factory doesn't operate in a vacuum. Its speed and its efficiency can be affected by the conditions around it, just like any factory here in the human world.
So, the factory's productivity depends on a few key things. More light and more CO2 can definitely boost production, but only up to a certain point before the machinery is just maxed out. Temperature is also critical. Just like a car's engine, this process has an optimal range. If it gets too hot or too cold, efficiency just plummets. And of course, without a steady supply of water, the entire operation can grind to a halt.
So now that we've seen how this microscopic factory works, let's zoom all the way back out and take a look at what this single process means for the entire planet. And let me tell you, the consequences are absolutely staggering. And this right here is the ultimate takeaway. Photosynthesis is what generates the oxygen in our atmosphere. It forms the absolute base of nearly every single food chain on the planet. It acts as the world's lungs, constantly pulling carbon dioxide out of the air and helping to regulate our climate. Without it, our vibrant, diverse world just couldn't exist. It's as simple as that.
And right here, you can see the whole beautiful interconnected picture. It all starts inside a single tiny chloroplast, but the combined effect of trillions upon trillions of these microscopic factories all working together in unison is what creates a habitable planet. It's the thread that connects every living thing in a shared planetary cycle of energy and air.
So we end with this thought. This silent, elegant, and ancient process underpins our entire existence. It's not just some abstract concept in a biology textbook. It is the life support system for planet Earth. Which really leaves us with a critical question to think about. Knowing how much we all depend on it, what is our role in protecting it?